We are really strong, actually. We are all really strong. We're all really fierce. We all have much more capacity than we give ourselves credit for.
The kind of peace that's available is actually a much more nourishing and enduring peace. And it's the kind of peace that comes from learning to be okay with whatever's happening.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 213. Today we're talking about becoming a stable center of peace with Oren Sofer and Emily Horn. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting membership, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Welcome back to the podcast, dear friend. I'm so glad you are here. We've got some continuity because this podcast keeps on coming, but otherwise the world seems pretty turned upside down right now. We have the coronavirus spreading all around currently, and schools being closed. My own children are out of school, and these are anxious times. And so we all around the world, communities are taking action to slow down the spread of coronavirus. You may be in isolation. You may not be doing the things you normally do. You might be working from home. You might have your kids with you. So I decided to scrap everything that I was going to be doing for this episode previously, and I invited some friends to help me talk to you about how to become more peaceful, this center of peace for our children, because our children really look to us to stabilize. They look to us for security and us to ground them. And so who grounds us? We do. So I wanted to talk about how do we do that? How do we take care of our anxiety? So I invited on two amazing meditation teachers. First, I'll talk to Oren Sofer, and Oren Jay Sofer teaches mindfulness, meditation, and nonviolent communication in both secular and Buddhist contexts. He's the author of the book, Say What You Mean, A Mindful Approach to Nonviolent Communication. And you can hear him on this podcast twice last year. Once to talk about his book, Say What You Mean, and another time where he interviewed me about my silent meditation retreat. Emily Horn is an authorized dharma teacher through the Spirit Rock Meditation Center and Insight Meditation Society. She's also a certified mindfulness teacher via the International Mindfulness Teachers Association. And she is the mom of a little one, only 4.5, and she helps to bring these worlds together of mindfulness and parenting. So this is going to be an incredible episode for you, and I hope this will be an episode that will help you cultivate your own peace, to remember your own peace. Mindfulness, that word comes from, is a translation of a word from the ancient Pali language. And other translations of that word are, one is recollecting. And I think that's really important I want you to know that as I talk and title this podcast, Become a Stable Center of Peace, this stable center is in you. It is inside of you at your very, very center. And what this podcast aims to do is to just help you remember that, to recollect that. So this will help you to touch that inner center of peace in these trying, difficult times. So I want you to listen for some important takeaways from these two conversations. The choices we make affect one another, and our choice to take care of ourselves matters. It matters a lot. And that means our mind, body, spirit, take care of ourselves in all those ways. Also, we don't need to be afraid of fear. It's just an energy moving through, and we're going to talk about that in the first interview. And I love this final takeaway that we can be peaceful and anxious at the same time. We do have both of those seeds in us, and we're going to talk more about that, and I'm going to help you understand that. So I hope that you enjoy this episode, my friend. You might hear my kids outside. They're outside, out and about, home from school, calling and playing with the dog. And before you dive in, I just want to say that I am so glad that we are connected. Hope that you are safe. I hope that you are sound. And I hope that this episode can help you make this a time of connection, of connecting to your values and what's really important, and maybe a time of slowing down. And I wish you well. And I also just want to remind you that there's a ton of resources at mindfulmamamentor.com that you can use, free meditations and more. And we will be here for you. And the Mindful Mama Mentor, the Mindful Mama Tribe Facebook group has become a really active, wonderful, supportive place too. So you can go over there and find out more about that. All right, enough about that, my friend. On to this episode. Oren, thanks so much for coming back on the Mindful Mama podcast.
It's a pleasure. Good to be here, Hunter.
I'm glad to have you here too. We didn't have plans to talk for a long time before, but everything has been upended in our lives, and I'm so glad that you took time out of your schedule to talk now, because the world is not a normal, if it ever was before, but it doesn't feel so normal right now, does it?
Yeah, well, it's funny, actually. It feels quite normal to me, because it's normal for things to change, and I think that's one of our primary misconceptions, is that everything seems really stable, when in fact, as we're learning and seeing very clearly before our eyes, that everything can change very quickly. And I think it's the sense of clinging to what we want to be normal that creates the dis-ease and that kind of sense of being destabilized inside. Whereas when we really recognize, oh yeah, this is totally normal. Like, people get sick, things change. That's just part of what it is to be human.
Yeah, I guess it's this. It's rapidly accelerated, in our view.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you have small children and they're changing day to day so quickly, that we get this sense of like, oh, you are a different person right now than you were yesterday, and we can kind of get that sense. But yeah, so it's really, I think you're right. It's just sort of putting in our face what is always there.
Yeah. And not to be glib about it, yes, obviously everything has changed dramatically, just even in the last few days, let alone the last week, for most of us, in terms of our day-to-day routines and our lives. And it's as a meditation teacher, it's just a wonderful opportunity to see one's own mind, one's own skills and capacities, and to really practice our values. And how do we respond in times of duress, and are we able to stay connected to our values, and let that determine the choices we make, rather than being swayed by the fears and the anxiety and the hysteria that can be kind of all around us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So this fear is a very natural, of course, normal response, right? Our nervous system is on alert for, and very helpfully so. As this week happened, on Monday, I was thinking, okay, well, I'll have my spring retreat on March 21st, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll all wash our hands, and I'll bring some hand sanitizer, and everything's cool. By Tuesday, I
Right.
had completely changed my mind, and I was
Right.
feeling that sense of like understanding the gravity of what social gatherings were doing, and feeling that sense of responsibility and that sense of fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
And I really think that as I look back on it, I know that was very helpful for me to make a responsible choice in that moment, was to actually have some of that fear to wake me up and help me see the seriousness of what was happening. Not that I didn't see that it was serious before, but to take in all of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting as this has happened, because I'm seeing the parts of it that is helpful, and then the parts of it that wasn't. I went to the library with my kids and my husband yesterday, and just going to the library was just kind of a little bit, it was a really different experience. We
Yeah.
were sanitizing our hands every second, we're
Yeah.
hitting the wheelchair button with the elbow to open the door,
Mm-hmm.
and uh and just feeling as I left, it just that had this physical feeling of anxiety, and that just
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
all of that affecting me. And so for me, I went for a run
Mm-hmm.
to help myself with that. But um, what do you can you talk to us a little bit about this fear and this anxiety that's arising for us at this
Mm-hmm.
time, and that sometimes we don't have an action we can take, and in many ways we're used to acting, right, to
Mm-hmm.
take care of
Mm-hmm.
these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, like you said, it's completely natural. It's adaptive to feel anxious and afraid when there's a threat, and the key is just what we do with that, and how do we handle it? How do we hold it? How do we respond to it? Um, so, yeah, I think there's a lot of different levels to it, and there's a lot that we can do. Um, I think the first thing is to just start to remember that panicking and going into overwhelm and binging on news media is not helpful. Um,
Mhm.
and using whatever tools we have, that whatever tools we've learned along the way, um, to to not go into overwhelm or panic, or if we notice ourselves starting to get to that state. Um, Dialing it back, so whether it's um, setting limits on your consumption of the news media, or just paying really close attention to your nervous system and how you're feeling as you're consuming the news, and being willing to take breaks. Those are all really helpful. Maintaining just standard health and wellness practices, like getting enough rest, practicing good sleep hygiene, eating well, exercising. All of those things become more important during times of high stress. And so, one of the things that we're seeing today, which is really kind of a, how to put it, it's one of the unforeseen gifts, I think, of this crisis, is that we are forced to become more aware of our interconnectedness.
Oh, yeah.
It's very clear, in a tangible way, the reality that's always been there, which is that what each of us does, the choices that we make in our day-to-day life, affect one another. And there's those in previously invisible networks of interconnection are made more visible
Mm.
by the pandemic. And so, my choice whether or not to be conscientious about washing my hands or touching my face, directly or indirectly, will impact thousands of other people in terms of the contact that we have. So similarly, our capacity to take care of ourselves, to stay balanced, to stay calm and clear headed, not freak out at the grocery store if they're out of something, to just recognize I can go back in a couple of days and it'll probably be restocked. And even if they don't have it, I'll find another way to get by or take care of it. Those are gifts that we can offer to one another and to our communities. So, we might think that panicking in the safety of our own home doesn't affect anyone else, but actually it will, and it does. So, these little things of self-care can have wider and far-reaching effects. Other things we can do, other things we can do with to deal with the fear and the anxiety that comes up. So, we're hearing a lot about social distancing, and I think that it's a slightly misleading phrase because obviously what we're talking about is physical proximity and not emotional proximity or social connection. And during times of stress, social connection can be very healing and can be very important. So, while the injunction to maintain physical distance from others is really important, but that doesn't mean maintaining emotional distance. And so I think it's really important for people to maintain their networks of social connection. So whether it's getting on the phone or getting on Zoom or FaceTime or any other video chat, and staying in touch with people. I've like many of us have elderly parents in their mid to late 70s, stepdad's in his 80s. And so, I'm very concerned about them, and I'm in touch with them regularly. And so, that's another really important thing, I think, with the anxiety is not isolating. We might isolate in terms of the physical contact, but not to isolate emotionally or psychologically, because that just increases the stress on the nervous system.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. Becoming a parent has totally changed my relationship with sleep. It is so, so vital because it helps us lower our reactivity. Getting enough sleep can help you become a better parent. Absolutely, I know this for sure. Sleep deprivation is something all parents know too well. Real restorative sleep is crucial to overall health, yet can be so elusive. That's why I'm so happy today's sponsor is Yoga Sleep, who has been making products for sleep for over 50 years and invented the Dome, the very first white noise machine. They know how to make trusted products that work. White noise is a natural approach to better sleep and relaxation. Yoga Sleep makes white noise machines for home, travel, and baby. Their products are really very high quality, and they also have the yoga bed mattresses and bedding and accessories. It's actually this whole one-stop shop for all things sleep-related. And the Dome is what my husband researched and found years ago for when Maggie was little, because it uses soothing fan-based sound and is the first of its kind. So if anyone in your family has ever tried white noise machines, you might know that it does help your family sleep better. And the Yoga Sleep has all these products that have even more sounds than the white noise machine. My family, my girls are fighting over the Wish, which has 16 sounds, which are wonderful. And they've been using it to help them go to sleep. Yoga Sleep started in 1962 when their founder invented the original sound conditioner with a real fan inside. It's been loved by millions since, and the products are backed by a 101-night promise, meaning you can try them risk-free. And many of the sound machines are actually assembled at a North Carolina-based headquarters for the best possible sleep your family can get. Go to yogasleep.com/hunter to save an exclusive 20% off a sound machine for natural sleep for the whole family. That's yogasleep.com/hunter to get 20% off. yogasleep.com/hunter.
And then maybe just the last thing I'll share in the moment that's coming to mind is it is important, like you said, about taking action. And so obviously, like, we all have our various forms of hopefully healthy coping mechanisms, whether it's running or exercising or baking or cleaning or, various things we can do to channel some of the anxious energy we may be feeling. There was the point. I lost it for a moment. I think it's really important to, there is certain information from the CDC, from your county public health department that's really important to have. But above and beyond that, the information often isn't helpful. And so taking the actions that we can take to protect our health and the health of our community is really important. So similar to you, I've had a number of events canceled. I'm holding more events online. I'm doing free online meditations every week now that people can join on my social media platform. So finding what are the specific actions we can take to protect our health, and all of the guidelines that are coming out around really the extreme importance and power of very simple actions like washing your hands thoroughly several times a day, avoiding touching your face, sanitizing frequently touched surfaces like keyboards and phones and doorknobs, maintaining physical distance out in public, limiting large gatherings, all the things that we're hearing, but actually recognizing that those aren't there to stimulate our fear. Those are there to actually tell us the very clear, specific, concrete actions we can each take to limit the spread and the impact of this and take care of one another. And so there can be a source of comfort if we're bringing awareness to those actions and connecting them to a sense of compassion and to a sense of, I'm doing my part. This is larger than me. I'm actually contributing and helping and taking care of myself and others by following these guidelines.
I love what you're saying, and for me, it brings up a lot. For me, I realize like this, me reaching out to you to have this conversation right now. This is like for me a positive action that I can take to bring this to the podcast. But also, what can we do that are positive actions, and our whole choice of remaining home. This is a kind of an act of solidarity, right? This is a whole humanity's act of solidarity, and I saw some beautiful actions like my mother shared with me a video in Italy of someone recorded this street in Siena where they were all singing out the windows, and we can do things like that to support one another in ways that we haven't before. Like we could be writing a thank you card to a friend who did something nice for us, or send a silly drawing to a friend in the mail, or reaching out in those other ways. Reaching out in ways that feel good. I actually have a friend who's in quarantine in Boston who has coronavirus with her young son and her husband, and they live in an apartment building, so it's even tricky. They can't get to anyway. So I don't know. I sent some Duplo Legos to their son, and it was great. She sent me a video of them watching it, him opening that. But if we have the resources, if we're not overwhelmed financially ourselves, if we're not struggling ourselves, it may be a time to reach out and help others. I just there's an Instagram account called Black Fairy Godmother where she connects people to people who are really struggling, who are on the margins, and you can go and donate. I donated some t-shirts and some t-shirts, and I forget what the other thing was, to somebody who was struggling. So those are, for me, that's what comes to mind as you talk about this idea, like maintain social connection, take actions, take these healthy coping mechanisms for ourselves, are also taking actions to support and help others will keep us in that mentally healthy, strong place. It'll be something to do to help us stay there.
Absolutely. And I think it's important also to draw on the internal skills that hopefully we have developed, and if not, that we can develop to learn how to be with the fear and the anxiety, because there's nothing scarier than being afraid of our fear. It's when we don't feel confident to experience fear, when we run away from it, when we suppress it, when we push it away, when we become frightened of our fear, that's a truly scary situation. But there's nothing to be afraid of about it. It's just an emotion. It's just a series of sensations and thoughts and energies in the body and the mind. And uh, it can actually be quite, um, in a certain way, quite peaceful to be with fear if you're not reacting to it, because it's yeah, as I said, it's just energies moving through. And so there are different ways that we can do the inner work that's being asked of us right now, whether through contemplative practice of just taking time to sit quietly and breathe and allow the sensations that are passing through our body and mind to pass through, and using the skills of meditation to anchor our attention in the body, with the breath, with sound, with loving kindness, with compassion, with any of these um, supports, these contemplative supports that we have, in order to create an inner uh, sort of container of inner stability and spaciousness to allow these thoughts and feelings and sensations to pass through. So this is one aspect of the inner dimension of handling the stress and the anxiety that might be present right
Oren,
now.
uh, for someone who doesn't have much experience or
Yep.
dealing with practicing meditation, maybe this
Yeah.
is new, hasn't been able to sit before,
Yeah.
what would you say to that person who's saying, "Okay, I don't want to be panicked for my children. I don't want to
Well,
be panicked. How
yeah.
can I sit with that and let it
Sure.
pass through me?"
Well, let's meditate together right now for 2 or 3 minutes with everyone, and just do it instead of talking about it. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So everyone who's listening, I just invite you to sit comfortably or stand comfortably. It's often helpful to sit, or even if you can recline, to lie down. And first, just take a couple deep breaths. So breathe in through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth, long and slow. And as you breathe out, just feel any settling, however subtle or small, in your body. And then as you do that, see if you can notice the places where your body touches the ground. So feel your feet on the floor, feel your backside on the chair. If you're reclining, feel the places of your back or your legs that touch the floor. And see if you can notice the weight of your body, that sense of something heavy or pressing, pushing down. If you can let your body relax, let the muscles and the tissues just kind of soften in your face, your eyebrows, your jaw, the back of your neck, down your shoulders, your arms, your chest and belly, all the way down your legs. And then see if you can feel the support of the ground. So there's something solid beneath you, there's something firm and steady. And you just want to keep tuning into that signal of steadiness, of support. And your heart might be beating fast. You might feel some tension or a kind of shaky feeling in your limbs if you're feeling anxious or stressed, or you might feel like tight in your chest. All that's fine. All that's fine. Just letting that be there. And instead, see if you can give more attention to the sensations of your body resting on the ground, the stability of the ground, and then this gentle rhythm of your body breathing. Just allow your breath to be natural. And it's like everything that's happening in your mind and body, the thoughts, the sensations, the discomfort, all of that's riding on this gentle wave of the breath. And so you just keep coming back to these very simple reference points, the body resting on the ground, the rhythm of the breath, and perhaps just the sense of space around you. You sense the space around your body. Space is open. There's nothing pressing against you right now. There are no demands being placed on you. So when we meditate, we don't have to make the fear or the anxiety or the contraction go away. You just hold a space for it. And then when you're ready, you can let your eyes open and just start to move your body again. And notice the effect. Notice the effect of a few minutes of quiet, of turning your attention inwards.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I needed that. And it's that simple. Sitting and not fighting those sensations, exploring them, letting them be.
Yeah.
It creates space.
Yeah. And the key is actually what for some might be counterintuitive is not focusing on the fear or the anxiety or the stress. When we focus on it, it tends to actually amplify and get bigger. So initially, the practice is you find some place to rest your attention that's either neutral or, even better, slightly soothing. And then you let the uncomfortable sensations be a little bit more in the background. And then very slowly, you just start to make space for that by referencing again and again, referencing the sense of wholeness, the sense of stability, the sense of ease, the sense of space, sense of warmth or care. And what we're doing there is we are strengthening those qualities in our consciousness, in enhancing and increasing those, and in doing so, we are creating a kind of inner crucible to metabolize the fear and the stress and the anxiety.
I like that. I like that. This podcast we'll be talking to Emily Horn too, and the order of the listener you're hearing it will be Emily is after, but I've actually talked to Emily just previously, and she mentions that we can be peaceful and anxious at the same time, and I think that's exactly what you're pointing to right here.
Exactly.
Like they're both in us,
right?
And we can choose to kind of bring our attention, water the seeds of peace. We can choose to be with all of this and allow some space for it. So I hope that was helpful for you, dear listener, as it was for me. Absolutely. And so, Oren, you were going to add something, but practically, would you say, as we're going through these times, how often might someone practice?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think it's helpful if you can, and we all have different responsibilities in our lives. So you work with what you can, but, it's helpful to just carve out a little bit of time once a day if you can. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, if you can get that much time away. Many of us are finding all of a sudden with conferences and events being canceled and working from home that all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have a lot more time on my hands. And that in and of itself can be anxiety producing for some. And it could also be a great gift. So if you are finding yourself that you have more time on your hands, using some of that time to settle and calm the mind, I think is great, is helpful. But even if that's not available, just 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 seconds of making space to be with how you're feeling. If you do that a few times a day, periodically, it can have a very powerful cumulative effect. So it doesn't need to be long, um, but it's the sincerity that we bring to those moments, and the kind of space that we create inside. And the key place people tend to get hung up is the belief that meditation means feeling calm and peaceful. And as Emily will point out in the conversation you have with her, and as we're talking about now, that's not the point. And the kind of peace that meditation brings is not dependent on having a certain experience. So, feeling pleasant feelings is a very tenuous kind of peace, because those change and they're not up to us. The kind of peace that's available is actually a much more nourishing and enduring peace, and it's the kind of peace that comes from learning to be okay with whatever's happening. And that's about making space inside and drawing on our resources, these resources of groundedness, kindness, awareness, compassion. And so again, just to come back to that phrase of making space for how you're feeling. So whatever's going on, to just take a few moments to turn your attention inwards and breathe with it, and put your attention somewhere that feels um, less disruptive, where you can start to have a reference point inside to meet the discomfort of whatever's happening. And then the process unfolds by itself. It's a natural process. Our emotions and moods and feelings are designed to signal information to us about our environment, and then to dissipate, to pass on. And it's only because we hold on to them and fight with them that they stick around so long. So if we can create the space to just feel them and let them be, they resolve and get integrated on their own.
Hmm. Amen. We need to remember this. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, Oren. So, dear listener, if you're looking for some resources, I know that both myself and Oren have guided meditations on the free Insight Timer app. There are some free guided meditations at mindfulmamamentor.com under resources. And Oren, I imagine you have some more
Yep.
to offer here as well.
Yeah. My website, orenjaysofer.com, has a whole audio page with a ton of free meditations. And as I said earlier, starting this coming week, I'll be offering free live stream meditations once a week at different times. And if you follow me on social media at Oren Jay Sofer on whatever platform you like to use, I'll be announcing those, and you can tune in during your day.
And so you can see, dear listener, how this is very much at the heart of your parenting, because as you can make your heart more spacious for whatever you're holding, then you can become that force of stability for your kids too, which is a beautiful thing to offer in this
Yeah.
very interconnected world. Oh,
Yeah.
so interconnected, don't we know it?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Oren.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Emily, thanks so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
These are weird days, aren't they?
That's one way to describe them. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
So I know for me, my two daughters are 13 and 10, and they are, school is canceled and they are home, and my classes, I was teaching an intro to mindfulness class, is canceled. My retreat is postponed, all these things are postponed. My 13-year-old's birthday party is postponed. So our lives, we went on some hikes today. It's kind of slowed down. It's an interesting time. How is this whole time affecting you and your family?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely affecting me and my family and so many other people in this world. We are not quite we haven't, where I am, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, we haven't closed schools yet, but we are definitely doing the self quarantine for the benefit of all people around us. And so we have a kid, 4.5 years old, Xander. He's home all the time now. So it definitely has put us into a new schedule and a new routine. And we're trying to figure out, how we are going to stay sane in this chaos. How do we do that? And why is that important?
Yeah, I saw a really nice statement about the idea of what's happening. That this whole idea that we're all going into this self quarantine and this sort of like physical isolation kind of thing is this real act of solidarity actually
Hmm.
come from humanity. And I really loved thinking of it that way, as this we are coming together in solidarity to help those of us who are most vulnerable and to help our medical systems. And I just love that way of thinking of it. So we all, it's kind of the difficulties all spread out as far as for all of us in so many ways.
Yeah, we're definitely in this together. And one of the things that just keeps replaying in my mind is, for those of us that have kids and have seen Frozen 2, there's this point where, everything goes crazy, and they're exiting the castle and they're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, the magic's been unlocked in the forest. And Olaf has this scene, the little snowman, and all the kids are like putting like little jewels and things on him. And he's like, I call this controlling when everything is out of control, something like that. And I think
Mm.
that's what we're all trying to figure out, is like, what is in our control and what is not in our control, and how do we work with that? Because when things get so chaotic, then of course our nervous system's going on alert, and it's like, okay, what do we do? When our nervous systems are on alert, and that's just the reality of things. And we're home with our kids.
Yeah, yeah. So, and our kids are looking for us to be this, they get
Hmm.
their sense of security from us. So,
Yeah.
when our nervous systems are on alert, I mean actually the virus itself just shows how ultimately incredibly interconnected we are. It's we can't escape it. It's amazing. The podcast I put out about staying home with kids on Friday. It's helpful for people in Hungary for right now. Like they're thanking me. It's crazy, and
Mm.
it makes a lot of sense. But this interconnection and the way we affect each other, and for me, that's why it was so important for me to reach out to you,
Hmm.
a teacher at the Spirit Rock Meditation Center and Insight Meditation Society teacher and mom, to help us remember also that can become and we can practice to become sort of a stable center of peace. And so I know it's kind of a lot to jump from like, oh my gosh, our nervous systems are going crazy and we have this fear, and
Hmm.
but we also have, I think of it the way that Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh teaches it, that we have these seeds inside us, and that we have the seeds of fear and we have the seeds of peace. So this conversation is specifically to water those water those seeds of peace.
Yeah, what are those seeds of peace? And Thich Nhat Hanh also has a story about, being, like all these refugees being on a boat, and if one person out of that boat can be that center of peace, then it affects everyone. And that's when we're in a family system. That is, what we are aiming for, is to be that center of peace, so that our mirror neurons don't get activated, because our kids are gonna, like you said, pick up on that. And we have this negativity bias, right? That's supercharged right now because we have so much input coming at us that is mostly fear based in some ways, and valid in other ways. And so it's like, how do we continue to move that negativity bias in another direction? And I found that I have to get the support of my family. And then I also have to enroll my kid in that. It's not just all up to me. My kid has to get involved in this process as well. So there's little things that, we have started to do to try to move that negativity bias and center and stabilize. And one thing is, just saying thank you. Thank
Mm.
you, thank you, thank you. And, Xander would take a turn, thank you. Then I'll say thank you. And then my husband, thank you. And it's like, yes, can we just take these moments and just remember that, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, there is going to be something that we can be grateful for. And that alone will start to, our sympathetic nervous systems will start to align with that, and settle. And then what's happening now? What's happening now? Over and over and over again. It's never the same. Each moment is different.
Yeah, that's exactly the other day, as all this stuff was hitting me, as I was realizing I had to postpone my retreat. I had to deal with, you know, all kinds of things happening and all the, learning, all that catching up, and I could feel my system in this fight, flight, or freeze, anxiety, stress response, and that as I was driving my daughters somewhere, I can't remember where we were, I just said, let's do a round of gratitudes. What are you grateful for right
Yeah.
now? What are you grateful
Yeah.
for? We all went in a circle and shared it 3 times around just because, and it just helped to shift, helped to change and just start watering those other seeds. It makes a huge difference.
It does make a huge difference. And I think that's the name of the game right now is like, what can we do to stabilize so that we can sense into a possibility that we might not have sensed into before? Because in times like this, I really do see that there is a potential for creativity, for something new to emerge when we can sit poised in chaos, so to speak.
All right, awesome. So a potential for creativity, a potential to be present, a potential to just take some respite from the worry and etc. So, what are some of the things that we can do to practice peace? And I know that you are a meditation, a mindfulness teacher. I know that is part of it for you. So I'd love to talk about that, but also other things. What comes to mind as I ask that question?
Hmm. One of the things that comes to mind too, in just these times when we're talking about peace, is like just remembering our expectations can get in the way sometimes, and just relaxing around what expectations that we might have for ourselves and what that might look like, the peace. Because as we really deepen in our practice, our complexity, the way that we hold complexity can change. And there's an ability that we can be peaceful and anxious, or peaceful and happy and sad. So there's a majority of people that think, okay, it's I'm either happy or sad, or it's peaceful, or it's not peaceful. So to just leave the room for the possibility that maybe things can start to quiet, things can start to settle, and there's enough space for whatever is happening to be okay the way that it is within that space. That we don't have to necessarily change it, but that our job is to be with it, to be steady with it, and to remember that, yes, we're going to go through contractions and it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. And then we're going to expand because it's not always contracted. So to really just pay attention to the expectations. Do we think that it always needs to be expanded? Do you think we always need to be happy, or do we think we always need to be a certain way? Because it's just not. Everything is going to be different right now, and we have to leave room for our expectations for ourselves and for our kids and our families to change right now.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. This episode is sponsored by my new favorite subscription. It's called CauseBox, and I need to tell you about it. CauseBox is quarterly, 4 times a year, a subscription box that's curated by women for women and is filled with all sorts of amazing products and brands that are ethical, sustainable, and have a positive mission to give back and make the world better. Every Cause box is limited edition and comes with 6 to 8 full-size products. You get everything from skincare to jewelry to homewares and accessories. The last 4 boxes sold out within days, which I can believe because you get over $250 worth of products for only $50. I got my own sample box, and here are just a few of my favorite things that were in it. I've already been using this amazing duffel bag, which is so cute and has been gone with me to the Y, has pockets in just the right places. It has this bento box, which you are going to love, which I am so excited for my kids to use at their school. It's very stylish, very compact and neat, and really, really handy. Has this awesome, beautiful pink, it's like a it's like a notebook holder thing. I'm so stoked to go to my next conference so I can hold this because I'm going to look so stylish with it. Has these amazing earrings. It has a set of 3. I'm going to share some with my daughters. Has skincare, this skin brightening cream, and then it has this amazing, wonderful wine tumbler that I am totally going to be rocking at the pool this summer. And I didn't even mention it has this funky jade roller as well. So cool. CauseBox also comes with a magazine that tells the story and the mission behind each product in the box. But one of the best parts I was just getting this CauseBox in the mail because they ship it to you for free, but you get to, it's this beautiful, beautiful box. Mine had all these flowers all over the box, and you get to open it and feel like I got myself a surprise bundle of gifts. I'd get this for myself. I'd get it for my mom, my sister, my friends. It really is my new favorite subscription. The best part about it is, of course, is that I got my listeners an exclusive discount. So you can go to causebox.com/mindfulmama and use the code mindfulmama to get your first box for 30% off. As in, you get your first box of over $250 worth of stuff for less than $39. So go check it out. www.causebox.com/mindfulmama, and I will tell you firsthand that you are going to love it. I love what you're saying because I do think that we are hard on ourselves for when we are, especially if we've been practicing meditation for a little while or in practice in the past, that we are hard on ourselves for when we do feel anxious. I'm not supposed to be like this because I have these tools, and I love this possibility you're offering that we can be anxious and peaceful. Like those are both within us at the same time. This is not something necessarily we have to fix. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yes, from a certain perspective, there is nothing wrong right now. Everything is okay. And then from another perspective, from our personal sense of self, I mean, there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty. And so it really calls it into question, everything into question. And it asks us, how do we deal with uncertainty? Can we rest back into that there is a wisdom that can arise here with this? Like when our kids get bored, are we okay being bored? Are we okay with our kids being bored? Because we need to be able to be with whatever it is. And boredom is one of the hardest things, I think, sometimes, because that's that moment where we feel like there's nothing to do. And then what do? We pick up our phones and read the news, and then we get anxious again, and then the cycle starts again. So it's like, okay, can I relax into these moments where, there is, what am I going to do? And my kid's screaming, I'm so bored. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. That's where things can be revealed that we haven't seen before. I mean, that's when that imaginary game pops up that, oh, I didn't think about that. That's cool.
Yeah. One of the best responses to I'm bored is my favorite one ever comes from Kim Payne, who wrote Simplicity Parenting. He said, you just say to your child on repeat, there's something to do right around the corner. And if they say, no, but there's not, there's something to do right around the corner, you become so boring yourself that they go off and find something to do. And yes, there's often a lot of creativity on the other side of that. We do a screen-free Sunday in our house, and we're still going to do it. And our kids sometimes complain, and then the most creative projects happen on Sunday.
Yes, that's true.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with uncertainty? And as we ask ourselves that question, we want to remember that we're modeling in every moment, right? We're modeling how to deal with uncertainty for our kids. When uncertainty has come up for you in these days, how have you been dealing with it, Emily?
Yeah, it's the little things, it's really, like I said, stabilizing is one of the key things right now for me and for a lot of people. So, taking breaths when I'm able to take breaths. So if you're really anxious, breathing, paying attention to your breath might not be where you go. But there's the breathing, and then looking at the sky. Just simply, if you're able to take a walk and get in touch with nature, those are the things that I'm doing. And then, another thing with uncertainty too is that it seems to our thresholds change. And so I've noticed that when, things get stressful, especially because it's uncertain and there's a certain level of stress there, that little things start to get to me that don't normally get to me. Like maybe, my son is like grabbing onto me more, like normal. He's doing it like normal, but it feels like it's more than I can take at that moment. And so it's like just being able to communicate, hey, honey, I'm touched out right now. I feel like it's really important to give us, as adults, space and communicate that we need space, so that 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 ability to relax, even in just little moments, can support us when that uncertainty really does come up and shows, like, rears its head. Because really, it is all uncertain all the time. This is just highlighting it.
Mm. I know it's true. I think that we just forget about the an essential uncertainty of being alive here on Earth. This is
Yeah,
the truth is that any of us
yeah,
could kick it
yeah.
tomorrow or
It's
later
totally
today,
true.
and
Yeah.
this is just bringing that into reality. And those, in the art world and in paintings, we call those memento mori's, reminders of death. And this in some ways is this reminder of uncertainty of death. And for me, I never saw those as grim.
Mhm.
I always see those as like, oh wow, I'm alive. Like, yes, I'm alive right
Yeah.
now. I have to live
Yeah.
my life.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's really beautiful because it does bring us in touch with being alive, which brings us in touch with being interconnected, and that we're all in this together, and that we're sitting in solidarity, like you said before. These are the times that we practice for.
Yes.
We know they're coming, or I knew they were coming. It's like we can't sit here and ignore certain things forever in our collective. There are going to be moments where they come to light, and this is one of those times where, okay, we all have to get real with a lot of things. That it's a wake up call, and if I continue to view it like that, then it's like, okay, what is it now? What's happening right now that I can respond to, bit by bit by bit.
So I want to ask you a little bit about some of the habits that you might be practical habits you might be employing to kind of keep your stability in this time of uncertainty.
Hmm.
And I just before you do that, I just want to share some of mine that
Hmm.
I've noticed that really have helped. um, Definitely, you mentioned getting outside, getting in nature. I noticed I had a lot of anxiety when after I went to the library with my kids, just the whole process of the hand sanitizer at every moment and all that stuff. And I took myself out for a run because that I know that really is helpful for me. And I went out into the woods. I'm making it a practice. I'm keeping my daily meditation, but I'm also making it a practice to hold my regular boundaries around my screens. I don't have Facebook on my phone. Am checking it a lot more now on my computer, but I will wait in the morning until I've gotten up, I've done my meditation, I've washed my face, I've had my coffee, I've eaten my breakfast. There's a good amount of time before I'm going to look at the news. And then again, at the other end of the day, I'm not looking at my email, I'm not looking at Facebook, I'm not looking at anything after 5 o'clock in the evening. And just so I can bookend my day, we watched Knives Out, which is great and hilarious last night. And I
Hmm.
recommend it. Good, funny
Yes.
movies are great. But just
Yes.
bookending my day with the boundaries around taking some of this stuff in, which I highly recommend that you do, dear listener. Give yourself boundaries, give yourself time to be with you before you go and engage with what's happening in the world, even in this time. So that's what I'm doing. And I'd love to hear what for you, what kind of habits are you employing to stay stable and grounded?
Yeah, those are all great. And I follow some of those as well. So I highly recommend them. And another thing is to, like I said before, I do the best, when I'm home with my kid, a lot, to enroll my kid in these things too.
Mm.
And so there are times where, things can just feel like we're in that contraction, and it's like we're just bouncing off each other, and I can just feel myself getting more and more anxious or angry or frustrated or whatever that is. And in those moments when I can remember, it's like we have this little simple meditation that we do out loud that's mindfulness based, and it's really simple. We do it. It's like, there is hearing. there is seeing, there is touching, there is tasting. So you can, expand that to include, body sensations and thinking and emotions. But it just gives that moment of pause. And of course, my kid who's 4.5, I can not just at home, we've done this for a while, driving in the car sometimes, he'll get anxious because somebody, cuts us off, and he sees that and he's like, there is fear, mama, there is fear. So it's just a way
Oh,
to help them also, because it's out loud, to kind of ground, and we connect in a way that's like, oh yeah, you have fear, I have fear, that's right, this is common, this is, everyone has this. And then it doesn't stay long. We also see the transient nature of our emotions and our sensations and our reality like that. It'll arise and pass, and wow, you were scared 2 seconds ago, and now look, we're happy, we're laughing. It goes through these natural ebbs and flows that if we can become more familiar with and okay with, then back to the expectations, we can loosen around those and know that yes, this too shall pass, and we can do this. We can do this.
I like that one. That's a great way to share that with your child. How much does he know about what's going on?
He knows there's a big bug, that there's a big bug, and it's affecting everyone because he's 4.5. So he knows that, because he knows that he needs to follow all the things about, sneezing in your elbow and the hand sanitizer. And so he gets that, and he gets that it's affecting people all over the world, and that, he's not going to be able to see his friends for a while, and that's hard for him. So yeah, but overall, he's doing well with it. We all are.
It's hard with a 4.5-year-old. You can't exactly ask them not to touch their friends when they're that age.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons we chose to do the self-seclusion, because we're like, our kid is not controllable. So, but we can control keeping him at home, and we're very privileged and lucky to be able to do that right now.
Yeah. So I know it's early. You may not have gotten into sort of your schedule with you and your partner and your child all at home. Have any thoughts on what's coming up for that?
Oh, we've made our schedule. We did that. That was one of the first things, and we definitely have it blocked off. Like Xander has his schedule, and he knows what his is, and then ours overlaps. And there's time for work, my work. There's time for my husband's work, and then he has time for, and then we switch it off, and then he's got time for academic stuff, and then he's got creative play, and he's got outside time, and we have it all kind of marked off. He knows what time is what, and free time. So we're being pretty rigid with that, because what I've found is that, I've done a lot of retreat practice, like 2-month long retreats and 1-month long retreats. And what I found when things are, when we have to do like self-quarantine or any of this stuff, it is similar to a retreat. It does
Mm.
make me think of a retreat. And I've done a lot of what we call life retreats in the past, where we turn our lives into a retreat. And so that's kind of how I'm viewing this right now, is that we're going into a family life retreat, and we're going to stick to the structure, because when things do get uncertain, when things do get anxious, when we will get frustrated with each other, we can fall back on that schedule and say, well, look, honey, from 9 to 10, we are going to walk. That's what we're going to do. And there, we don't really have to negotiate that. Like, this is what's going to be happening. There's some choice in there, like maybe we won't walk today, maybe we'll do a dance party, but the general sense is that there is something like the structure that can support us in a way that we don't have to, our minds don't have to go so many different places that just create extra stress.
Kind of that structure is sort of taking place of the structure that you might have of a preschool or et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, of all the different things in our lives. That sounds really smart. So meditation and mindfulness for parents, what does it do for us? Why, how can it help us draw in on our own peace and cultivate it a little bit more?
I think that's what it's all about. I think that's what it's all about. Meditation and mindfulness supports us in being present. And when we're present, we're able to respond in a way that we might not have been able to before. And through that presence, that's when the heart comes alive. And when the heart's here, we make different choices. We make different choices when our heart is online. And then it's not so scary, because the heart is vast and spacious. And when equanimity comes in, that ability to really stand poised in chaos and to know that no matter what, like a tsunami could come through the door and we could really stare it down and be okay, then that really enables us to, it empowers us. It empowers us to take care of each other, to make different decisions, and to create something new. And that can be our small little family system, and then that can be, our community, local community, and then that can be our state, and that can be our country, and that can be our world. Without those little pockets of people really up to it, really dedicated to it, through the ebbs and the flows, um, I don't know, it would be so much harder. And why do that? That's what the whole Buddhist psychology is all about. And I trained in the Buddhist wisdom tradition. It's like, um, why create more suffering for ourselves than need be? We already are going to get sick. We already are going to die. There's things that we can't control, but yet we can look at ourselves. We can stabilize. We can see how our thoughts affect our emotions, how our emotions and thoughts affect our bodies. We can breathe through this, and we can live into a different world.
Amen. I love that. And so if if this is not something that has been a long many years practice for you, dear listener, there are ways to practice. There are ways to start practicing. It's not going to be that rainbow sparkly unicorns come flying out of your nose as you practice, um, but you're going to strengthen a muscle of peace. And the way I look at it, and I wonder if you agree, Emily, like, is that we, in our core of cores, in our heart of hearts, we have this center of peace. We know we're interconnected.
Yeah.
We know that we are this vast spaciousness. We have this center of peace. And why we don't often feel that is because we have a nervous system, and we also have layers of strategies and things that we've put on that have helped us survive. But
Hmm.
underneath all of that, it's there.
Hmm.
It's that vast center of peace is there, and it's just a matter of allowing it in some ways.
It is a matter of allowing it, and to give ourselves permission to sense into that, and really watching. When you were talking, I just kept thinking, really watching these thoughts that get thoughts too arise and pass. Like not all like what our relationship to thinking is really important to look at these days. Thoughts like, I can't do this, I'm not enough, this is never going to end. Sometimes when we get really anxious or maybe overwhelmed, it's like, this is too much for me. And all of these, like Byron Katie says, it's like, is this true? Is this true? Because we are really strong, actually. We are all really strong. We're all really fierce. We all have much more capacity than we give ourselves credit for. So just to remember over and over again that, yes, we've got this, you've got this, and there is a capacity for love that's beyond our cognitive understanding, and that cognitive mind is sometimes what really gets in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so those thoughts are something that we can deal with, those thoughts of, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. That you can say to yourself, thinking. You can say to yourself, worrying. You can say
Yes.
to yourself, oh, hello, worrying. I see you there. I got you there. I see you there. And I'm going to then refocus in the here and the now, in what is real. So for me, um, a practice that really helps me refocus when my thoughts are ruminating is I say to myself, okay, I am here. And it's like a little gatha, breathing in, I am, breathing out, here. And I look around me and I see where I am, and where I am 100% of the time I've ever asked myself that is safe and stable, and
Hmm.
there's beauty in it. And that really helps to redirect me.
Yeah, that's great. I always, one of my go-tos is, what is happening right now? Like, what is happening right now? What is happening right now? And it changes, we can't, what is happening right now is different than the next moment. Um, and that is important to keep remembering in these times.
Emily, I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. So last minute, I ended up scrapping all of my podcasting plans and asking some friends to come and help me and Emily, and I really appreciate you doing that. Do you have any final words and thoughts for the listener as we go through this upended time together?
You know, just that we are in this together. Like, we really, really are in this together. And sometimes when we go into self-quarantine or when we're anxious, we get into this tunnel vision and we feel like we're not. So anything that we can do right now to remember that there are people in this world that care, like Mr. Rogers says, look for the helpers. And so, just remember, keep looking for those helpers. You are a helper yourself. If you're listening to this, you are dedicated to mindfulness practice. You are mindful, you are aware, and you are one of the people that are going to change this world. And so I so appreciate that. And we need you. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this episode was helpful for you. If you found it helpful, please, of course, subscribe and share it with your friends. Share it around. Word of mouth is the best way that we share the Mindful Mama podcast. I really know how important it is, that these choices that we make, how the choice you make, it affects me. As you create more peace in yourself, you do create peace for all of us. You don't need to be afraid of your fear. It's just an energy moving through. We are strong. We can be with this. And I love that idea of we can be peaceful and anxious at the same time. And I just said it's an idea, but it's more than that. It's a truth. And you can experience that truth in your body. And as you do, you touch into that vastness, which is who you really are. So I wish you peace. I wish you moments of joy, and I wish you many funny movies and lots of exercise and fresh air. And I will be back with you next week. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.
I'd say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth, and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark-Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You will be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.